Howdy folks, welcome back to the Forge. Got a pretty cool project for today, because if you watched my last video, at the end I stopped because I needed to draw out a piece of metal on the power hammer. There's the hammer in question. The astute viewer might recognize that this is a homemade hammer, and it's not working right now. Now it actually works pretty well when it works, it just often doesn't work. But it shouldn't really be too much work to get it up and running again. The only problem it has right now are these rollers. Rollers are just not a good system for stabilizing an inline hammerhead. So all I'm going to do today is make up some little brass bars that can go on either side of these triangular rails and hold this thing in place. It'll just slide against brass bars instead of these rollers holding it in place. Should be a lot sturdier. This was a little rickety to begin with, and then I don't know if you can see very well there, but one of my ball bearings on there just kind of gave out and cracked on me, fell apart. So other than that, it's all in good working order. Just need to make up some brass bars. Should be pretty simple. The way I'm going to be making my brass guide rails is pretty simple. Just pour them into this little mold here. Got my little crucible ready to go. Got some tongs I can hold it with, and I got a bunch of scrap brass over there. If you don't know, Goodwill is a good place to buy scrap brass candlesticks. The only thing I'm a little uncertain about is this crucible. It's one that I made myself, as I think is apparent. It's made from 50% sand and clay mixed together. And I don't know exactly how well it's going to hold up to the heat shock. It'll withstand the temperatures if I can get it up to the temperatures without it cracking. So that's the only part I'm really worried about. Other than that, pretty simple. And once I have 4 of those ingots poured, just clean them up a little bit, poke some holes through them, and I can bolt them in place around the rails on my hammerhead, and then we should be ready to go. Alright, I got the forge turned down nice and low, and try and preheat this crucible nice and slow, and hopefully avoid cracking it. As long as we heat it up pretty gently, should be fine. Alright, the crucible is now glowing, and it has not exploded, so I think we're safe to start charging it. So the keen-eyed observer might notice that I only made 2 plates when I said I was going to make 4. That's because I ran out of brass. These ended up taking more than I kind of expected. Got I don't know, like 4 pounds of brass there. They're pretty substantial. But you know what? I think this is actually going to be okay. It's only the rollers in the front that are really getting beat up. The way that fulcrum works, the hammer wants to buck forward, not backward. The ones in the back are totally fine. They still, roll very nicely. I think most of the time they're not even contacting the hammer. So, these are the important ones. I think these will do it. Alrighty, got my shiny new brass bars installed. They fit really well. They look super nice. I had to do a little bit of modification on one of those holes I drilled at the bottom. I just had the holes slightly too close together, so I just turned the bottom one into a slot. Should work just as well. Now I was about to power the thing on and test it out when found out that my motor wasn't working, or it's not going to work. I think the motor itself is fine. The controller that I ordered for it, though, turns out to be a piece of crap. And so I finally just bit the bullet and bought a nice AC motor. And I'm done fooling around with DC motors. More trouble than they're worth. Who needs variable speed anyway? Like, this motor over here is the same price as the controller that I'm getting a refund for on that thing. So hopefully this will turn out to be better in the long run. But now I can't really use this thing until I get the new motor installed. So I've run the numbers to get like approximately 3 beats per second with the hammer. I'm going to need to fit a 6-inch V-belt pulley onto that axle there with the flywheels. Then stepping that 1.5-inch pulley directly to that 6-inch should give me the right speed. So, get this thing running, I now have to go and get a 6-inch pulley, remove that 3-inch pulley that's already on there so I can get the 6-inch one further down over here, then put that one back on. Then we should be in business. Okay, so time has passed and progress has been made, but not as much as I would like. So I got the new motor installed. That went pretty well, pretty easily. The problem is it is way too fast. So you can basically get an idea how this thing works. It's pretty darn simple. And I did some calculations on the motor speed, trying to figure out how many beats per second that was going to give me. I came out at around 3 to 4, pretty comfortably in the 3 to 4 beat per second range, which is still a little higher than it should be, but I figured it'd be operating kind of on the low end of that. And problem is, I mismeasured the drive pulley there that comes off of the actual motor itself. So that is a 2.5-inch wheel, obviously not a 1.5-inch wheel. I really should have known better, but that's what I did my calculations with. So my actual operating speed right now is attempting to be like 6.5 beats per second. Almost 7 beats per second on the high end, and about just over 6 beats per second on the low end of whatever the operating range actually is. So that's a problem. So to actually get this down into a comfortable operating range of like just over 3 beats per second, I need to replace this with a 1.5-inch V-belt pulley. And I don't know if they make those. That's super small. Like, that might be smaller than can physically fit on that shaft there. So I don't know. I'm gonna go over to the pulley store, check it out, see if I can find something. If not, I think I'm gonna have to back up that motor and somehow in this area install a secondary speed reduction, which I really don't want to have to do, but I don't really see any options besides that. This motor, I'll just run you through the math real quick. So when I started this, I had absolutely no idea how AC motors worked, and I had to do a little bit of research to even figure out what my RPMs were going to be. As the reason I got this motor at a discount is because the label was all scratched up, so I guess it couldn't be sold. I'd always kind of just assumed that AC motors, just worked based off of the amount of power you put in. More power equals more speed, but it turns out it actually has nothing to do with power. It has to do with the number of windings on the actual physical coil inside of your motor. So I checked this one, it's a 2-pole motor. I found out you can just use this equation and figure out the speed of any AC motor, and you just take the number of wave cycles per minute of your alternating current, so in this case 60 hertz times 60 seconds, divided by the number of poles on your motor, in this case 2, which is divided by 2 because for every pair of poles on your motor per wave cycle, your motor is going to complete 1 full rotation. And that gives us 3,600 RPMs. Pretty neat. However, that is super fast. That is way faster than I need. So, obviously I need to do some significant speed reduction on that. So if you do the math for that using the real numbers, you take 3600 RPMs times my first pulley ratio, which is a 2.5/7, times my second pulley ratio, 3.5-inch wheel to a 12-inch wheel, and then divided by 60 again, get 6.25 beats per second of my hammerhead. That is way too fast. So my options here are just to see if I can find a significantly smaller pulley for that first ratio. So if I can manage to cut down that 2.5 somehow, that could affect my final speed. Or what I'm starting to think is more likely, I'm going to have to put another set of pulleys in there and cut my speed down again somewhere else. Alright, it's done. It works. I think I said when I was making my stainless Damascus video that this would be simple little repair. I should really know better than to say stupid stuff like that. But it's done. It's got way too many pulleys on it to be called simple anymore. But it is done. Check this out, guys. Yeah, I'd say that works alright.